Hello guys, this is 12th Harbinger and welcome to my pre-release Clorinde build guide. Here I will be explaining her kit, talent priority, combos, best artifact sets and stats and weapons. Without any further ado, let's jump right into it. Before starting with Clorinde's kit, here are some basic visual cues. Bond of Life is indicated by a red outline over HP bar. Max amount of Bond of Life a character can get is 200%. At 200%, whole HP bar is covered with the red outline. At 100%, half of the HP bar is covered with the red outline. Let's start with Clorinde's elemental skill. It has a 16 seconds cooldown. After using her skill, Clorinde enters Night Watch state for 9 seconds, during which she gains Electro Infusion, and her attacks will be converted to Wild Hunt state, which makes her to switch to her pistol and shoot enemies using ranged normal attacks. If Clorinde's Bond of Life is over 100%, she will shoot using normal pistol attacks. If it is below 100%, her attacks will grant 35% Bond of Life until it reaches 100%. Additionally, the shots will pierce through opponents and deal increased damage. During the Night Watch state, recasting Clorinde's elemental skill will make her do a lunge attack with her sword. In Night Watch state, this skill has no cooldown. The lunging attack will clear her Bond of Life and deal damage to enemies. The effects of this attacks are enhanced based on her Bond of Life. If there's no Bond of Life, she will perform a normal level 1 lunge attack. If the Bond of Life is less than 100%, she will perform a level 2 enhanced lunge attack, which has increased AoE and damage. It heals Clorinde for 104% of her current Bond of Life. And if her Bond of Life is equal to or greater than 100%, this skill unleashes level 3 enhanced lunge attack. This has maximum AoE and damage. It heals Clorinde 110% of her current Bond of Life. Do keep in mind that during her Night Watch state, that is after using her elemental skill, she can only be healed by her lunge attack mechanics, which I just explained. However, when her skill is not active, she can be healed normally. If she is healed during her elemental skill state, 80% of the healing will be converted to Bond of Life. This amount is increased to 100% of healing with her A4 passive. This makes it much easier to get Bond of Life on her and have good synergy with healers. The pistol attacks have Auja-aligned damage, which can be triggered every 10 seconds. All the attacks in her elemental skill state are considered as normal attack damage. Here's a TLDR of her elemental skill. Use elemental skill, then normal attack 3 times, which will grant her 105% Bond of Life. Then recast her skill and deal level 3 lunge damage and heal her. Clorinde's burst deals a large amount of electro damage and also gives her a large amount of Bond of Life. It has a cooldown of 15 seconds and energy cost of 60. Let's move on to her passives. Clorinde's Ascension 1 passive is one of the most important part of her kit to deal big PP damage. In her Ascension 1 passive, whenever a party member triggers an electro-related reaction, Clorinde's electro-infused attacks in her elemental skill state and her burst damage will be increased by 20% of her attack for 15 seconds. Maximum stacks you can gain is 3. Each stacks is counted independently, and the maximum damage increase achievable through this method is 1,800. This is a huge boost to her damage. Clorinde's Ascension 4 passive activates only when she has Bond of Life equal to or more than 100%. If her Bond of Life increases or decreases, it grants Clorinde 10% crit rate for 15 seconds. This can be stacked twice, which means you can get 20% crit rate. The crit rate buff still remains even if the Bond of Life goes below 100%. Clorinde has crit rate Ascension stat. This passive, when combined with the 19.2% crit rate from her Ascension stat, will give her 39.2% crit rate, which is huge. This lets you build more crit damage on Clorinde. And as I mentioned earlier, the Ascension 4 passive increases the healing to Bond of Life conversion percentage to 100%. For Clorinde's talent priority, level her elemental skill, then her burst. Clorinde's special normal attack scalings in her elemental skill state are tied to her elemental skill and have a separate scaling than her normal attacks, so you can skip leveling her normal attacks. For her combos, to deal the max amount of damage, you would want to use her lunge attack whenever her Bond of Life is greater than or equal to 100%. As we all know, each attack with her pistol after using her skill will give 35% Bond of Life to Clorinde, if her Bond of Life is below 100%. So your standard combo will be 3 normal attacks with her pistol and use her elemental skill thrust. If there's a healer in the team, you can get the Bond of Life faster as it gets converted. As Clorinde is an Electro character, there are many teams you can use her in. Quicken teams will be one of her best teams as it will increase Clorinde's damage. However, there are many other great options like Hyperbloom teams, Chevreuse Overload, or Electro Charge teams. Moving on to her artifact sets. Fragment of Harmonic Whimsy will be Clorinde's best in slot set as her kit revolves around Bond of Life mechanic. The 2-piece gives 18% attack and 4-piece gives up to 54% increased damage. As Clorinde's attacks in her elemental skill state are considered as normal attacks, sets that boost normal attacks are also an amazing option for her. Gladiator's Finale will be a very strong set option for her. Echoes of an Offering is also great, but it needs good ping. As the buff of Echoes is additive, you can face diminishing returns in Quicken teams as Quicken reactions are also additive. However, in other teams, it becomes a bit better option than in Quicken teams. Still, this set is very ping-based and not recommended unless you have really good ping. Thunder Soother is a strong set option as it increases damage against opponents affected by Electro by 35%. But this can be very inconsistent as there's a high chance that the Electro aura can get removed in most of the teams. In Electro Charge teams or Mono Electro teams, however, it can be a bit consistent. Alternatively, you can mix and use 2-piece sets of Thundering Fury, any attack percent sets, or Merchasy Hunter. 4-piece Thundering Fury and Gilded Dreams are usable in Quicken teams. 2 pieces of EM sets are viable in Quicken teams. In teams aside from Quicken and Hyperbloom like Overload, Electro Charge, Mono Electro, sets that buff reactions or give elemental mastery are not that great, so avoid using them. Merchasy Hunter, when paired with Furina, can be one of her best options, only if the set passive can be maintained. Furina's HP drain stops at 50% of max HP, and Clorinde cannot receive any healing from outside during her elemental skill state, which can be a problem. However, her elemental skill lunge attack can still heal her and maintain the set stacks, so there's a chance that this artifact set can be one of the best options for Clorinde with Furina in the team. We will get to know more about this when she gets released, as we can't say anything for sure right now. Clorinde's burst deals a good amount of damage and also grants her Bond of Life, which makes it a useful part of her kit. Use the number I am going to mention just as a general guideline, as her particle generation is not confirmed. Generally, on-field characters with 60 burst cost will require around 160% energy recharge. However, Electro has this really amazing character, the only playable character with a delusion, Prinzessin der Veritelung, Fischl. She is one of the best batteries in the game, and having her in the team will also unlock the Electro Resonance. So with Fischl you can get away with 130 to 140% energy recharge. Favonius weapons will further reduce her energy requirements by around 10 to 15%. Moving on to her artifact stats. Attack on Sands. In Quicken or Hyperbloom teams, EM Sands is viable, but not much better than Attack Sands, as she won't be triggering many aggravate reactions. You can go with EM Sands only if it has godly substats and is much better than the Attack Sands. Electro damage bonus on Goblet, and crit damage or rate on Circlet. For substats, get the required amount of energy recharge, then focus on crit rate and crit damage followed by attack percent. Elemental Mastery is a decent substat for Quicken or Hyperbloom teams. Moving on to her weapons. Clorinde's signature weapon Absolution is her best in slot. It has a base attack of 674 and provides 44.1% crit damage. Crit damage is further increased by 20% from its passive. Additionally, increasing the value of Bond of Life increases damage by 16% for 6 seconds. Maximum of 3 stacks, which means you can get 48% increased damage. Other 5-star weapon options are also very strong and close to her signature weapon. Herenge Pakufutsu, Misplitter, Light of Foliar Incision, and Yuraki Misujiri are all pretty good on her. Primordial Jade Cutter is also a strong option, but since you are already getting 39% crit rate from her kit alone, there's a high chance you might overcap on the crit rate unless your artifacts are loaded with crit damage and attack substats. Splendor of Tranquil Waters is a decent stat stick. Freedom Sworn is also decent, but you are better off using it on your supports, and it works only in Quicken or Hyperbloom teams. You all will be happy to know that she has a very strong F2P option, Finale of the Deep. The passive gives Bond of Life an additional attack when Bond of Life is cleared. Black Sword is slightly better than Finale of the Deep at same refinements, unless you are overcapping on the crit rate, and taking Finale to R5 is also much easier and F2P friendly. Lion's Roar increases damage against opponent effect by Pyro and Electro by 20%, which increases to 40% at R5, if you can maintain 100% uptime on its effect. It can be her best 4-star option. It can be a bit consistent in overload teams as both Pyro and Electro works to trigger its passive. Even though it is a bit inconsistent, it is a strong weapon option. Takubo Shigure is a decent option in Quicken or Hyperbloom teams. Iron Sting is viable in Quicken team, but not worth crafting over Finale of the Deep. Here's a calculation of her weapon for Quicken and Overload teams that I found on Jestermain's Discord server. Just use this as a general ranking as your artifacts will decide on which weapon will be better for you. For example, if you have lots of crit rate in your artifacts and have a R5 Black Sword and R5 Finale of the Deep, you should use Finale of the Deep as you don't want to overcap on your crit rate. And that's all for this video. Don't forget to like and share the video. I will also be creating videos on Wuthering Waves as it is close to its release, so make sure to subscribe to stay tuned. Thanks for watching.